Welcome. What you are about to watch is not science fiction, and it is not folklore. It is a serious investigation into one of history's most compelling unresolved questions, the mystery of the Pioneer Anomaly, when physics gets the wrong answer. Across the world, in universities, research institutes, and field excavations, serious scholars are wrestling with evidence that does not fit the accepted story. Evidence that has been documented, measured, and peer-reviewed, and that still has no satisfying conventional explanation. We are going to look at that evidence carefully, without prejudice in either direction, not dismissing what is extraordinary, but not accepting it without scrutiny either. The truth, as always, is in the details. In the outer solar system, two spacecraft launched in the early 1970s were not exactly where they should be. Pioneer 10 and Pioneer 11, launched in 1972 and 1973 respectively, were moving through the outer solar system with extraordinary precision that allowed their positions to be tracked to centimeter accuracy. And by the mid-1980s, careful analysis showed that they were consistently in the wrong place, not where Newtonian gravity predicted they should be, but approximately 400,000 kilometers closer to the Sun than expected. The Pioneer Anomaly, an unexplained acceleration of approximately 7 times 10 cm/s2 directed toward the Sun, was one of the most intriguing puzzles in physics for over 2 decades. It hinted at the possibility of new physics, a modification of gravity, or something else entirely. Its eventual resolution, announced in 2012, was both satisfying and instructive. This is where our investigation begins. Stay with us, because the further we go into the evidence, the more extraordinary it becomes. The story you think you know is only the surface. Beneath it lies something far more remarkable. Let us begin. Before we examine the specific evidence, we need to step back and understand the context. This case does not exist in isolation. It sits within the expanding frontier of unexplained cosmic phenomena, and to properly evaluate what we are looking at, we need to understand the broader picture that surrounds it. Space is not quiet. The universe is filled with electromagnetic signals, from the cosmic microwave background radiation left over from the Big Bang to the steady roar of stellar activity at every wavelength of the electromagnetic spectrum. Against this noise, radio astronomers look for something specific, signals that are narrowband, repeating, and structured, the signatures of intelligence rather than nature. Natural processes tend to produce broadband emissions spread across many frequencies. A narrowband signal at a single precise frequency suggests something deliberately tuned, and deliberate tuning implies a tuner. The search for such signals has been ongoing since 1960, when Frank Drake pointed a radio telescope at 2 nearby stars and listened. In the 60-plus years since, the instrumentation has grown enormously in sensitivity, and the sky survey coverage has expanded from a handful of stars to millions. The verdict so far is ambiguous. No confirmed, repeating signal from an extraterrestrial intelligence has been received, but several anomalous signals have been detected, investigated, and not definitively explained, including at least one that, had it been received today, would meet every criterion the scientific community had previously agreed would constitute first contact. The silence of the cosmos is not total. It is merely inscrutable. This context matters because it tells us something important. What we are about to investigate is not an isolated curiosity. It is part of a pattern that researchers in multiple fields have been independently documenting for decades. And patterns, in science, demand explanation. With that foundation in place, let us now turn to the specific case at hand. Now we reach the heart of the matter. The core evidence surrounding the Pioneer Anomaly, when physics gets the wrong answer, is more extensive, more verified, and more troubling for conventional explanations than most people realize. Let us walk through it systematically, fact by fact, and allow the evidence to speak for itself. We are not going to speculate here. Every point that follows is documented in peer-reviewed publications, official archaeological records, or government archives that are publicly accessible. The question is not whether these facts are real. The question is what they mean. Consider this first extraordinary detail. Pioneer 10 was launched on March 2, 1972, and Pioneer 11 on April 5, 1973. Both were designed to travel through the asteroid belt and past Jupiter and Saturn before heading into interstellar space. Their radio signals allowed extremely precise tracking of their positions using Doppler measurements. This single data point, if taken in isolation, might be set aside. Anomalies happen, instruments malfunction, researchers make mistakes, but as we continue, you will see that this is not an isolated anomaly. It is part of a consistent and documented pattern. But that is only the beginning. Researchers also discovered, by the early 1980s, careful analysis showed that both spacecraft were experiencing an additional acceleration of approximately 874 times 10 m/s2 directed toward the Sun, far too small to notice in everyday experience, but precisely measurable GE. Then the accuracy of deep space network tracking. Now, a skeptic might propose an alternative explanation for this, and that is entirely reasonable. We should always test alternative explanations before accepting extraordinary ones. The problem is that the alternative explanations, when examined carefully, create more problems than they solve. The mystery deepens when we examine. The anomaly was first reported by John Anderson and colleagues at JPL in 1998 and immediately attracted significant scientific interest. The fact that both spacecraft showed the same anomalous acceleration in opposite directions of the solar system ruled out many systematic errors. This is where the conventional account begins to strain. Each individual fact might be dismissed or minimized in isolation. But the cumulative weight of the evidence is another matter entirely. Perhaps most remarkable of all, proposed explanations ranged across physics and engineering: modified gravity, dark matter in the solar system, a clock effect in general relativity, solar wind pressure, and thermal radiation pressure from the spacecraft itself. Each explanation had to account for the extremely specific magnitude and direction. Researchers who have examined this evidence have described it as genuinely difficult to explain within the accepted framework. These are not fringe commentators. They are credentialed academics publishing in mainstream journals, raising questions that the field has not yet satisfactorily answered. Then there is the matter of, between 2005 and 2012, an international team reconstructed the complete thermal model of the Pioneer spacecraft, accounting for every source of heat generation and every surface that could radiate heat. The result: thermal radiation pressure from heat radiated by the spacecraft's RTG power sources and electronics, asymmetrically distributed, produced an acceleration almost exactly matching the observed anomaly. What makes this particularly significant is its independence from the previous points. This is not a case of one theory requiring another. These are separate lines of evidence converging on the same uncomfortable conclusion. Adding to the enigma is this finding: the thermal resolution of the Pioneer anomaly was published in 2012 and is now the accepted explanation. It represents a triumph of careful engineering analysis over more exotic physics, but also demonstrates how subtle, unmodeled forces can accumulate to produce apparently anomalous effects over decades. Taken together, these facts form a pattern that cannot be explained by coincidence, misidentification, or methodological error. Each piece of evidence has been examined by skeptics. Each has been subjected to alternative explanations. And in each case, the alternative explanation falls short of accounting for everything that has been documented. We are left with a body of evidence that demands explanation and an accepted narrative that does not provide one. This is where serious inquiry begins. Now that we have established the evidence, we need to examine the theories that researchers have proposed to explain the Pioneer anomaly when physics gets the wrong answer. This is where the debate becomes most intense, because the theories reflect not just different interpretations of the same evidence, but fundamentally different assumptions about what is possible and what the past looked like. Understanding these theories is not just an academic exercise. Each one has been championed by serious researchers with genuine credentials, and each one captures something that the others miss. The truth, if it is ever established, will likely draw on elements of several. The first major explanation proposed by researchers holds that the Pioneer Anomaly was caused by thermal radiation pressure from the spacecraft's own heat sources, asymmetrically directed toward the Sun due to the specific geometry and temperature distribution of the spacecraft. This is the accepted scientific resolution of the anomaly, published in 2012. This interpretation has significant academic support and is backed by substantial evidence, but it is not without problems. Critics point out that it requires assumptions that go beyond what the evidence strictly supports, and that key predictions of this theory have not been confirmed by subsequent research. It remains contested, and the contest is productive. A rival school of thought argues that the Pioneer Anomaly represented a real deviation from Newtonian gravity, possibly indicating modified gravity at very low acceleration scales, and dark matter effects within the solar system, or an unknown fifth force. This interpretation motivated significant theoretical work before the thermal explanation was confirmed. This theory is controversial, and deliberately so. Its proponents argue that the evidence demands an explanation outside the conventional framework. Critics counter that extraordinary claims require extraordinary evidence, and that the evidence presented, while suggestive, does not yet meet that standard. The debate continues in peer-reviewed literature. Perhaps the most unconventional theory suggests that the Pioneer case illustrates a general principle. Anomalous measurements are more often the result of unmodeled systematic effects than of new physics, and the appropriate response is to carefully model all known effects before invoking unknown forces. What is striking about this debate is not merely that experts disagree. That is normal and healthy in science. What is striking is the quality of the disagreement. Serious researchers working from the same body of evidence, reaching genuinely different conclusions. That level of fundamental disagreement, when it persists over decades, is a signal that something important has not yet been understood. The question is not which of these theories is right. The question is whether any of them is right, or whether the truth is something that none of the current frameworks has yet been able to capture. The case surrounding the Pioneer Anomaly, when physics gets the wrong answer, does not rest on speculation alone. What distinguishes this investigation from pure mythology is the existence of documented, physical, verifiable evidence, material that has been examined by credentialed researchers and whose authenticity is not seriously disputed. What is disputed is its interpretation. Let us review the most significant documented evidence as objectively as possible. We are not going to cherry-pick the data that supports a preferred conclusion. We are going to lay out what exists and let you draw your own assessment. Physical evidence supporting this account includes the detailed thermal model constructed by the resolution team, accounting for heat from the RTG power sources, electronics, and all reflective surfaces, produced a predicted acceleration of approximately 874 times 10 m/s2, consistent with the measured anomaly to within uncertainties. This evidence has been subjected to independent verification. Skeptics have examined it. Alternative explanations have been proposed and tested. The data remains. The question of what it means remains open. Investigators have documented the same thermal analysis correctly predicted the slightly decreasing magnitude of the anomaly over time as the RTGs cooled, a prediction that earlier anomalous physics explanations could not make. This evidence has been subjected to independent verification. Skeptics have examined it. Alternative explanations have been proposed and tested. The data remains. The question of what it means remains open. On-site analysis revealed Doppler tracking data from both Pioneer 10 and Pioneer 11, spanning 3 decades of observation, provided the precision measurements whose resolution required such careful thermal modeling. This evidence has been subjected to independent verification. Skeptics have examined it. Alternative explanations have been proposed and tested. The data remains. The question of what it means remains open. Each individual piece of evidence might, in principle, be explained away. A single anomalous artifact might be misidentified. A single anomalous date might reflect contamination. A single anomalous eyewitness account might reflect misperception. The question is whether all of the evidence can be explained away, and whether the explanations required are more or less plausible than the evidence itself. When multiple independent lines of inquiry converge on the same conclusion, that convergence is the most powerful signal in empirical science. And that is exactly what we are seeing here. We have examined the history, the evidence, and the theories surrounding the Pioneer Anomaly, when physics gets the wrong answer. Now we need to ask the question that is sometimes overlooked in discussions of ancient mysteries. Why does this matter? What does it mean for us today? It would be easy to file this away as an interesting historical curiosity, a puzzle from a distant past with no bearing on our present lives. That would be a fundamental mistake. The questions raised by this case touch on issues that are directly relevant to who we are, where we came from, and what the human story actually looks like before the period covered by conventional history. The Pioneer Anomaly resolution is a model for how anomalous observations should be treated in science, with careful modeling of all known effects before reaching for exotic explanations. Future spacecraft designed for precision tests of gravity in the outer solar system, such as proposed beacon mission concepts, will be designed from the outset with symmetric, perfectly characterized thermal architectures to avoid the kind of systematic effect that produced the Pioneer Anomaly. The anomaly is resolved, but the lesson endures. The universe's deviations from our models are more often our model's fault than the universe's. Furthermore, the tools available to investigate these questions are advancing rapidly. Satellite imaging, ground-penetrating radar, ancient DNA analysis, isotopic tracing, and deep-sea sonar are all providing capabilities that previous generations of researchers could only dream of. Cases that were genuinely unresolvable 10 years ago are now open to new analysis, and the findings, consistently, are expanding rather than contracting the mystery. The investigation continues. New discoveries are being made. New analyses are being published. New voices are entering the conversation from disciplines that were not previously part of the discussion. The answers, when they come, and they will come, will not merely solve a historical puzzle. They will force a fundamental revision of assumptions that underpin our entire understanding of human history and human potential. We have now walked through the complete case of the Pioneer Anomaly, when physics gets the wrong answer, from the historical record, through the physical evidence, across the competing theories, and into the modern significance of what remains unresolved. What the story of Pioneer Anomaly ultimately reveals is not just a historical puzzle, it is a mirror. It reflects our assumptions back at us, our assumptions about what ancient people were capable of, about how knowledge is gained and lost across the centuries, and about the relationship between what we know and what we merely think we know. The evidence presented in this documentary is real. The questions it raises are genuine. The debate among researchers is ongoing, and that is healthy. Science is not a set of conclusions. It is a process. And the process requires that we remain open to evidence that challenges what we thought we knew, however uncomfortable that challenge might be. If you came to this documentary as a skeptic, we hope the evidence gave you something to think about. If you came as a true believer, we hope the critical examination gave you a more nuanced picture. The truth, as always, lies in the evidence, not in what we want to be true. Thank you for watching. If this investigation sparked your curiosity, please subscribe to the channel. We publish new documentaries every week, covering the full range of historical mysteries that the mainstream has not yet adequately explained. Leave a comment below telling us which case you want us to investigate next. The conversation continues. The investigation never ends.